Hello everyone, welcome back to Parkitect, welcome back to campaign mode, and in today's episode we're going to be doing Pagoda Valley. So let's take a look what this one's all about. A secluded valley presents an ideal location for a thrilling coaster park. The nearby temple is fine with your use of the land as long as you respect the existing structures. You had to take a small loan to get your park started, but now you're ready to go. So we need to have 500 guests in the park, no loan debts, and the optional goals are to sell at least 800 park tickets by the end of December year 3. I can see we've already got the gold coin for this one, so we don't need to worry about the optional goals. Just want to beat the scenario, so let's get into it. Okay, here is the map then, and we've got this pair of inverted dueling coasters which look really cool. Yeah, I love the design of these. Really good terrain conforming coasters working their way down the hillside here. These inversions must be pretty fast the way it's sort of laid out. But yeah, I mean that's half the work done surely, isn't it, for this map already if we've got these. So Permission Blitz and Sakura Shooter. Both very high excitement. So we'll put the price up to 12. We won't go 15. That can be a good basis to start the map on. Which land have we got? We've got quite a lot of land, but not that much flat land. So I think the terrain is going to be the main sort of challenge for this one. But these two coasters alone are going to bring in plenty of money and plenty of guests to the park. So, I mean, this one should be pretty easy to beat. Yeah, we're already on 100 and we've only just opened the map up. So that'll make a nice change from the really long and some of the difficult playthroughs that we've had in the last few maps. I'm going to see what selection of rides we've got. So Teacups and Wave Swinger, that's cool, we can put them both in. Twister, and we've got an inverted, suspended and hyper coaster. Might have a go at the suspended coaster actually, although having said that we've already got the two inverted coasters haven't we, so maybe not. Monorail and no water rides, that's fine. I think I'll actually research thrill rides to start with, and get a few rides and shops in before we look at doing our first coaster. In terms of theming, these aren't this isn't really one of my strongest themes to work on. I mean, this is, I believe, a Japanese inspired map. So yeah, I need to get on to Pinterest and have a look at some ideas, and yeah, I'll see you over in the first time lapse. So I really wasn't sure how to begin with this one and what to do with this style of theming. I wanted to try something a little bit different, try and use the pieces in a different way to what I've done before. I mean, this is a different theme to anything we've really had in the campaign playthrough so far. It is a theme that I've obviously worked on before in different sandbox parks and whatnot. So it's something that I'm sort of familiar with, but we're focusing mainly on the Japanese style of Asian architecture in this one, and I wanted to build some sort of shops and stuff that represented the theming style of Japanese type houses, like townhouses maybe. I found some really good reference images to go by to help inspire me to build some of these buildings. So you can see sort of straight off the mark we're getting in and building the main sort of restaurant shop type building for the front of the park, and using lots of pillars and the text technique again to build sort of thinner border details, thinner trims and stuff that you'd see on these buildings. I also used the windows and just layered them up loads to try and make them look like Japanese windows. I think it has a fairly good effect. I think it all works quite well. But the most tricky part was getting the roof in. So I did it all custom. There's not any roofs really that we've got in game that would work for this theming style, in my opinion, or not as detailed as how I wanted to do it, because I wanted to do this in my own sort of style, if that makes sense. So yeah, we do it all custom with shapes, obviously the diagonal ones, not diagonal, but the sloped ones or whatever. I think they're at 0.15 on the grid space, and that way they all sort of sit nicely together. And using the age-old technique of using 3 different colours to give it the variation, and it just works every time for things like this. Making custom roofs in the game look so much nicer than using the ordinary roofs, but it is time consuming and piece heavy, so if you're doing a big park you don't want to do this too much because it can slow down performance quite a lot. But yeah, I'm happy with how this came together and gave the sort of Japanese overhanging roof effect, and obviously I've laid it up so we've got a centre roof as well, and then the bit around the side. Yeah, that's about it really to say about this one. I've kept the build quite short, the time lapse rather quite short, and cut a few bits out because watching me endlessly place basic shapes and the text piece and stuff like that is quite tedious, so I thought we'd just try and keep the most interesting bits in. And I give the roof a bit of variation as well by making a custom trim around the edge, again with the cylinder shapes, and just painted them sort of gold, a couple of different gold colours, and I think that looks quite nice as a detail. And yeah, all in all I was really happy with this building, so it sort of set the tone for the theming style that I wanted to do in this park, or at least in this area of the park, where we've got some room to make a few sort of main street type buildings, I suppose. And I didn't really know what to do with the pathway, so I extended it out a little bit, changed it to this stone path, which I think works well for this theme, and just placed a load of rocks around to make the corners a little bit curved. Yeah, pretty simple, but it works out fine, and you can just hide the extra path bits there with bushes and plants and whatnot. And then to just sort out some of the backstage stuff there as well. We didn't need a depot, which is good because this is right next to the depot that's at the front of the park, so I just had to sort of hide it with a fence so that the guests don't, so it's not a bad decoration rating for the guests there. And then I'm working a little bit further up the hill, well I am in a minute anyway, after placing some foliage there. Is it the sakura tree? Is that what it's called? That's what I'm using there, but toning down the pink colour a bit. I do like to use more, is it sort of less saturated colours, is that the word I'm looking for? A bit less hue on them. I like to darken things down a bit, I don't know, I feel like it gives a bit more realism. That's something you probably see me do quite a lot. And then I'm just placing in some intricate sort of flowers and various different plants and stuff, to give it, that bright Asian foliage sort of feel to it, I guess. And I'm placing a few very, very small plant pieces on the actual path to make it look like some of the leaves may have fallen. I'm not a gardener, I don't know how realistic any of that would be, but I think it looks cool in a theme park regardless of whether it's accurate or not. Nothing to say these can't be fake trees anyway, if it is a theme park. Next then, I put a staff building in and quickly covered it up, and then I just decided, yeah, I'll go ahead straight away and theme this rather than just leaving it blank. And I'm doing pretty much the same thing as the other building, except this one is just a box shape. But I don't think it really matters that it's a rectangle, that we're using sort of square boxes for buildings in this map, because we can use it overhanging roofs and stuff to add interest and a bit of depth and off-griddiness to them. So yeah, I think it works out fine. And obviously I'm pretty much copying the other building, but I do change some of the colours and give it a bit of variation. All the roof pieces that I'm using here have very minor sort of adjustments to the colours, so that they're not all identical. Which, yeah, I don't know if they'd look better if they're identical. No, I just wanted to try something different. Anyway, moving on, I'm creating a cover for the flat ride here, the teacups ride, that I actually put in right at the beginning of the time lapse, but I never mentioned because we've sort of moved quite fast. And then I'm just jumping up to the top section there to add a couple of shops and a toilet block, just for a gameplay, just to help with the gameplay of the park, really help keep the guests happy. And then obviously connecting that up, that all cost a bit of money, so I think I took out, I think I'd already paid off the loan that you need to pay off for the goals, but then I took another one out, so at some point I have to pay that one off as well. I can't remember if that gets done in this bit of the time lapse or not. But yeah, I'm just copying the theming that's already there to cover up the shops, which I think works fine. You can't remove any of that stuff, so later on I might add to it and maybe give it some custom roofs on top. I don't know yet. It depends if I can be bothered or not, probably. But yeah, I also did a bit of zoning for the staff there as well. But now we are back working on the teacups cover, and this is actually quite tricky because working out the heights and grid spaces that I needed. So although a lot of the footage is cut out, I did place them sort of at the wrong height that guests were clipping through and stuff, and then you can see that top one as well was too low and I had to raise it, so it actually took quite a bit of time to get all that in. And then I decided to just stick a path around the top and pretend that that's a flat roof piece, and I think that works really well actually, especially with that slightly themed fence that we put around it as well. And then other than that, we're just copying elements over from other buildings. Obviously not quite the same, because this is going to be a lot more open because it's got the ride in there that we want the guests to be able to see, so we just prop it up with prop the lower roof section up with some pillars really, and then on the top stick the triangular roof again. Not triangular really, is it? Pyramid roof, I guess. I'm giving this one more brown colour, so complete variation from the main street buildings, because again I didn't want to just repeat the same roof colours, even though that probably would have been fine. I wanted to try something different. And moving on to the final building that we're going to put into this area, or at least I think it is if I remember rightly. I wanted again a bit of colour variation, but on the actual building and framework and stuff itself, so I'll give it an orange door, some orange door frames and borders, and just stick one shop in there which I think sells umbrellas, because it did tend to rain quite a bit, so I thought we could probably make some money off umbrellas. And we've only got the one sort of covered up flat ride, so yeah, I thought that was a good idea. Here what I'm doing is a really cool technique that I sort of found out works for this Japanese style of theming, which is to use one of the fences. Can't remember what that fence is called, but you can see there how I've layered it up and stacked them on top of each other, so it looks like a much more authentic wall in the style that a Japanese wall would actually be built. So I'll probably be doing that technique more on future buildings in the map. But yeah, I'm surprised it worked quite well, and I only found out to do it because I needed something to cover up the building. I needed a wall that basically could sit behind the grid rather than on the grid, because the thinner pillars that I wanted to show were not showing with the normal wall piece, so I kind of figured that out by accident, which is cool. And yeah, I really like how this building came together in the end actually. Just subtle differences to separate it out from the other buildings that we've got on this little main street area. And that pretty much concludes the first time lapse. We've got everything in there. We've only built one ride. Because of the dueling coasters, the park is operating pretty well already. But I will jump over to a live section in just a sec, and we're going to look at how the park's running. Firstly though, just doing a bit of the lighting as well. You can see we've got some cool little lanterns that sit nicely just under the corners of all the roofs there. And I wanted to do something with this hillside as well, because I thought it looked really plain and bland, so I've given it some nice foliage and rock work, and yeah, left it at that really. So I'll see you over in the live section and we'll see how the park is doing. Right, so this is how our main street is looking. Pretty nice if I do say so myself. I really like the sort of little bits of variation we've got on each of the buildings, but carrying the same theme over. I noticed a mistake there I need to fix. Mistake. But yeah, I think the park's running absolutely fine, to be honest. We're making a small amount of money. The two dueling coasters that you have at the start of the map really help with the gameplay, and I've already played through this before and met the optional goal, so although we're on December Year 3 now, I'm not worrying about that because I've done it already. So we're just looking for 500 guests in the park. Should be achievable by building a new coaster and a couple of new thrill rides or something like that. But I do want to draw everyone's attention to something that, if you're an avid player of Parkitect, you probably know already. There has been a new update. The devs have blessed us with version 1.10, I believe it is. And it's basically, there's a load of new scenery pieces and a couple of changes to the game, like you can now change the watercolour on some of the water rides and stuff like that. But the scenery pieces are really nice, and there's a couple that we can definitely use in this map. So I will show you those now. Right, so we've got 3 pieces that I think are going to be really, really good for this map. One is this fantastic fence. I just think that's going to work perfectly in place of these fences, and it's recolorable. So I will colour it the same as these, and yeah, that's going to just work so nicely. Number 1 is a window piece. If I can find where the windows are they in details? Yes, they are. This round window, look at that. That is absolutely perfect for this map. Honestly, I'm going to have to make some more buildings just to use that piece. And then finally, something in the rocks. No, it's in pillars, but I'm going to use it as a rock. It's this piece, really, really useful for rock work. It's resizable and recolorable. And yeah, I think I can just make some really nice rock formations that work perfectly in this map. So yeah, these new pieces that we've got are fantastic. There's loads as well that will be brilliant for some of the other campaign maps I've already done, so I might just do a video where I go about placing some of the props in old maps that I've already finished. I know it sounds sort of counterintuitive, but we've got a tractor and I can't not place that in Orchard Acres, and we got some that would be really good for the western map that I've just finished as well. So yeah, I think at some point I'm going to attempt to maybe do a video where I just place a few of the props in different campaign maps. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's loads of mods for Parkitect. We've got pieces that are sort of similar to this, but now these are in vanilla. We can use them in campaign maps, and yeah, just a massive thanks to the developers for giving us all these new pieces. after so many years of the game being out. It's a really nice surprise to get all these. So we'll go back into a time lapse, we'll go back to the previous save, and we'll get continuing with the park. So I'll see you over there. Welcome back to the time lapse then, and we're going to start off building a flying coaster. I just thought it made sense as we've got it unlocked, and yeah, I think it's a coaster type that would work well for this map. The main struggle really was finding a place to actually put a layout for this coaster, because the terrain on this map is just so hilly. But I decided we're just going to put the station at the top of the hill and have the layout run down it, basically. So no lift hill on this one. Until right at the end, where it needs a tiny bit of a lift hill to get it back to the station. My main struggle here was trying to make a realistic looking pretzel loop, and I spent ages just trying to work out different ways of doing it, but the game did not want to play ball, and it did not want to make it the way I wanted it to look. So I just settled in the end for something that sort of looks okay. And yeah, it actually took me ages to do this, but I kept pausing the sort of recording of the footage because I was getting aware that I was spending way too much time just trying to perfect a pretzel loop. But the whole layout in general was really difficult to actually navigate with this terrain, and to keep a decent speed of the coaster going, because I finished the layout, then realised that it was doing the second half of the layout really slow and not even making it back to the station, so I had to tweak it, and in the end I got something that looks okay. It's not my favourite layout ever, but with a bit of modifying the colour scheme, I think I managed to make it fit in nicely with the map, and I sort of settled for a turquoise type colour, and gave some of the inversions a very subtle gradient as well, which isn't something I normally do, but I felt it was something that could work well for this particular coaster. I also randomly had to add 2 block break sections on this one in order to have 2 trains running. I'm not sure why. The station's perfectly long enough. I can't see why 1 block break wouldn't be enough, but it doesn't matter, we have plenty of room to do that, so that's what I end up doing. And with this coaster now being in place, to be honest, I'm really going to try and win the map without building any more rides, because there just isn't room to build many flat rides on this map. We probably do need another thrill ride in there maybe, but I'm going to just try and win it just using advertising to get the 500 guests and see if that works. But for now, anyway, I wanted to tidy up some of these tunnels, and I did that by digging into the terrain a bit. Obviously there's lots of underground sections. This coaster, it doesn't look too great, some of it, but we're going to make it look nice using the new pillar rock, which is going to be the saviour of this coaster. You can see that I'm starting to put them in now. Use 2 different colours, the same colours that I've got on the rocks underneath the first building that we built, and I think that colour scheme, those colours work pretty well to, you know, give the illusion that these pillars are actually rocks. And yeah, I'm pleased with the end result of this. I think we got something that looks pretty decent in the end, and then I just used some effects to hide any bits of tunnel that you can still see, and any bits where there might be a bit of a collision with the train, which is just so much easier to do sometimes. I duplicated the rock work for this section as well, because it was a very similar turn, so I just had to delete some bits and then change it around a bit to make it give it a bit of variation. And yeah, it's pretty much just a case of copying the same thing over and over again, really, to fill in all these tunnels. But yeah, it definitely definitely adds something to the map doing this technique. So glad we've got these new pieces now, and yeah, obviously using bushes around the edge as well to make it blend in nicely with the terrain and all work well together. So that's, yeah, pretty much it for what we're going to do on this area of the map, I guess. The next thing really to do would be to sort out a station for the coaster, and then decide what I'm going to do for the theming for the buildings that are already in at the top of the park. So just before I started building the coaster station, we actually completed the goals for the park, which is going to be one of the easiest campaign playthroughs goals wise out of all of them, because I only put into the park one coaster and one flat ride, and that was enough to meet the goals. I did an advertising campaign, but it was already soaring towards 500 guests at that point anyway, so it probably wasn't even necessary. The park's also making pretty good money, got sort of 40,000 odd, doing sort of 1,000 to 2,000 consistently every month. So yeah, I'm glad that was done, glad that it was a nice easy one, and I started working on the station, the coaster station. So really this is just a massive roof with several different layers. It's a bit of a rectangular box, which is why I tried to add this sort of entrance bit just to break that up a little bit and give it a bit more interest. I've cut out quite a lot of the footage as well for this station build because it's very repetitive, a lot of blueprinting, a lot of placing shapes, a lot of painting shapes. And yeah, it's not the most entertaining video ever to watch, but yeah, I kept enough in so you could get the general idea of how I put this all together. And you can see as well I've used one of the shapes from a new update as well for that sort of roof spire on the entrance bit. And yeah, I think it's going to be fun working with those shapes. They're all with those pieces. Sorry, they're all recolorable as well, which is really good. So yeah, all in all, I think this is a nice little detail that we added to the coaster station. To be honest though, this whole roof took me about 3 hours to do, so that's why the rest of the station itself isn't really that detailed, because I just had enough, to be honest, by the time I'd built the roof. And yeah, I just left it. We're using the new piece there, the pillar as well, to go all the way around to act as rock work. I can see myself using this piece so much in the future. It's more rocks to me than pillars, and it's something that I've tried to sort of replicate in vanilla before. Now that we've got that, it's going to make life a lot easier when I'm trying to build something like that, like a brick or sort of stone wall or whatever. So yeah, continuing with the station, then I've used the slats again. I think they're fences and pillars. Quick clearance check as well for the coaster train going in and out of the station, and it's fine. And that is pretty much all the detailing that gets done. There isn't a roof on this build, and you can just see so much blueprinting, so much placing shapes, and then sorting out the fiddly corners and stuff like that. So yeah, all great fun. And sometimes when you're doing the diagonal corner pieces, they just don't work on the same height grid as all the others, so I had to find a way to kind of make that work. But yeah, what more is there to say really? It is literally placing roofs in. Doing custom roofing in this game can be quite tedious, especially for a building of this size, and especially when I want several different layers like that. You can see I placed in sort of pillars there as well, and then using basic shapes as the borders, because we're all off grid here, so you can't use anything that sits on a one grid space like the borders do. And then we're going all the way around with basic shapes, and then I decided yes, it wants another trim, so go all the way around again, but blueprinted it this time to do it quicker. And then for some reason I'm going completely over there on the map. Oh yeah, it's to place another piece there for the exit. I don't know if that works that well really, because it sort of digs into the building next to it. But yeah, I don't know, for some reason I wanted that on the exit as well. I don't think it really mattered. By this point I was getting quite tired of the build, which is a shame, because normally, you know, I really love doing these builds, but when it's sort of repetitive like this, it takes its toll. So I think next time I do this theme I will try and not do custom roofs. We might have a solution to that in place now with new update pieces as well. In fact, we do have a solution, because later in the time lapse I use said solution. So basically I'm building this section of roof which pretty much completes it, and I'm just building one grid space piece so that I can blueprint the whole thing and copy it over everywhere, and that worked out a bit easy. It probably saved me a bit of time as well. Sometimes it's hard to just work out where the grid spaces are when you're working with loads of pieces like this. And then it's just a case of, again, finishing off the corners and clearing up any sort of messy edges. We also have a large trim along the top of the roof as well, which I think adds quite a lot to it as well. And using one of the new shapes as well to add to that trim. I put some shapes and some other roof pieces underneath these custom roofs because you can see through them at some points, so I wanted to make sure that it was all the same colour and you can see through to like the orange platform in the station or anything like that. Something that I've not really been doing recently actually is covering station platforms like I normally do. I've got a bit lazy with that. In the last map it worked because I was going for a western theme, so that colour worked. Don't know how well it really works for this one, but yeah, I couldn't be bothered to do it, so I didn't, basically. And yeah, you can see the completed roof now, and I think it is worth the effort. I do think it looks pretty good, even though it's quite time consuming to do. And then I decided I need to add something to this section, but we can't remove any of these scenery pieces or buildings, so I just stuck the new fantasy roofs on top of them, and I think that works well enough. My only problem with this roof is the sides of it have like a plant, like a vine sort of detail on them, which doesn't always work that well for these type of themes, but yeah, I think it just works well enough for what we need it for here. And I did the same with the coaster station as well. That took a little bit more fiddling with, but surprisingly you actually could remove that building. I guess it's not grade A listed or whatever, so yeah, that's it. Just adding a little bit more detail to some of the buildings that came with the map. And the final piece that I wanted to put in was like one of these little huts which would probably have a gong in it or something. I didn't build it tall enough so that you can see a gong. I didn't think about that until after I'd built it, so that was the original intention. So in the end it just turns out being a hut really, but I think it looks nice and adds to this area of the park. I've moved the information kiosk which was there, but I didn't like how it looked when I'd moved it. I want this to just be a square plaza, so I got rid of that in the end. And then we're swiftly coming towards the end of the build. All I'm doing now is benches, lampposts, and fences and bins. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Once all of those are in, the park is complete. So we will now go. Oh yeah, I did a bit of rock work as well around the other two tunnels that hadn't been done yet. So I will see you all over in the final park tour. Welcome to the final park tour then for Pagoda Valley, and this is our completed map. Nice to have an easy one for a change, I must say. As you can see, we've got our main street buildings that all follow the same style. with slight subtle differences to each one, slight different roof colours and stuff like that. And obviously we've got the flying coaster running just behind it. This is probably going to be the shortest park tour ever because we only built 2 rides in the map, so we're just going to have a look at what I built and take a ride on a flying coaster, and then that will be it really. Here you can see our only flat ride in the park, which is a teacups. It's covered up as well, so a bit of protection from the rain. Again, it seems to rain a lot in this map. And then as we go up the hill, we've got the dueling coasters that were already in the map before. Because I didn't build those ones, I don't think we'll take a ride on them. But there's another look. It's amazing how much of the map they actually do cover. But part of the map that we've not even had to sort of go anywhere near really, or do a lot with. It's like a half completed park really before you even start the playthrough on this one. So then we'll go to the top, and again these are buildings that are already in the map before pretty much, just added a couple of stalls in, and then we come to our flying coaster. I'd say I'm 80% happy with this station. It is rather big and it's not particularly heavily detailed, it's just mainly about these roofs, but it took me so long to do the roof that I just couldn't be bothered to do anything else with it afterwards. So let's take a look at the flying coaster then. Here are the stats: 86.0 excitement, 51.3 intensity, and oh, we got one leaving the station right now. So here we go, out of the station into the first drop, no need for a lift hill on this one, and then into the first couple of inversions, and then it comes to our pretzel loop that I spent so long doing. And then the rest of the layout really is just going through different helixes through various tunnels, and yeah, you don't see that much of it, I guess, from above ground, but the parts where you see the train flying in and out of the tunnels are still fun, I think. And I was just trying to make use of the terrain to the best I could, but yeah, it just ended up having a lot of tunnels because of the way that the terrain is. And then finally it goes into a chain lift at the end so that it makes it back to the station. So quite a different layout to what I'd find myself normally doing, just because of how the map is really. And I think it would be fun to just sort of watch it go round from down here. That's a really nice sort of, yeah, really nice area that we've got here, I think. And yeah, that's it then for Pagoda Valley. Nice and short one that didn't take me too long to do. I think what we'll do now is go back to the main map screen and see what we've got next. Okay, so the next map that I think we should do is Hickory Hill, because we've sort of gone past it now. So that looks like another one that must be fairly easy to finish because I've got the gold coin for it already. Looks like there's already a coaster in that park as well. So that will be the next episode then. I'll see you all in Hickory Hill. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.